Welcome back to a Book a Day podcast, where we are discussing Daodejing, the classic by Lao Tzu, and it contains the ancient Chinese philosophy of Taoism. So far, we have discussed 40 chapters, and in today's episode, I'm going to be discussing the next 10 chapters, starting from chapter 41 onwards. So, without any delay, let me narrate these lines from the chapter 41. It says, when the highest type of men hear of the Tao, they diligently practice it. When the average type of men hear of the Tao, they half believe and half doubt. When the lowest type of men hear of the Tao, they laugh loudly at it. If they did not laugh, it would not be the Tao. Therefore, it is said, the bright way looks dim. The way that goes forward seems to retreat. The smooth way seems rough. The highest virtue seems like a valley. The purest whiteness looks stained. The greatest art seems clumsy. The greatest eloquence seems stammering. Movement overcomes cold. Stillness overcomes heat. Clarity and stillness are the world's standards. Now, once again, you will find the paradoxes, the paradoxical phrasing of words. And the truth here, the meaning here is so subtle that it's very hard to understand it. What he essentially means to say here is that only sincere people can recognize the truth of the Tao. If you're not sincere, you're not going to recognize it. And he also emphasizes on the fact that what is truly deep is often it appears foolish or backwards to the ordinary mind. So here he is celebrating this wisdom of simplicity. The enlightened person might seem like naive, unpolished, or slow because their understanding is too vast to fit into the worldly forms. That's what he's talking about here. Chapter 42 talks about duality and how that comes from the Tao. Let me read these lines for you. The Tao gave birth to the One. The One gave birth to two. Two gave birth to three. Three gave birth to all things. All things carry yin and embrace yang. Their blending brings harmony. Men hate being orphaned, widowed, or worthless. Yet kings and lords call themselves by these names, for gain comes from loss, and loss comes from gain. Once again, poetic and paradoxical description. Here he is describing creation as a sequence of unfolding. From the undivided Tao, we get the duality of yin and yang, and that itself manifests into thousands of things. Here, Lao Tzu is expressing some kind of metaphysical vision of unity. From there comes the polarity. What he's saying here is, of course, ultimately there is one unity, but in its manifestations in this real world, everything exists in pairs, light and dark, male and female, joy and sorrow. And harmony, if we are seeking that, it will come from their balance, not from their opposition. Even though they seem like the opposite, we need to have the balance of the two. Then comes chapter 43, which talks about a theme which we have discussed a few times, the power of the soft, the gentleness, and it goes something like this. The softest things in the world overcome the hardest things in the world. The known being can enter when there is no space. Therefore, I know the benefit of non-action, teaching without words and working without doing. Few in the world can understand. Here he is meditating on the power of gentleness. He says that the weak conquers the strong, not by force, but by persistence and adaptability, just like water shapes the rock. What we can interpret here is that the soft is not helpless, it is infinitely yielding. Just like the Tao works invisibly, influencing without really demanding. And the highest wisdom is to find that natural order so that you can act without striving and you can teach just by being. You don't need to preach. You can be, and that itself can be a great teaching for others. So that's chapter 43. Chapter 44 talks about knowing what really matters. It goes, fame or self, which is dearer? Self or wealth, which is worth more? Gain or loss, which is worse? Excessive love leads to great expense. Excessive hoarding invites heavy loss. Knowing contentment prevents disgrace. Knowing when to stop prevents danger. Thus, one may endure. So he asks this series of rhetorical questions, what we truly value. And the idea here is the pursuit of fame or wealth. It can lead to anxiety, it can lead to some kind of loss, whereas simplicity and self-contentment, it brings lasting peace. And this is the Taoist sense of inner sufficiency. The wise, they do not chase endless accumulation. For them, contentment is there. They find joy in whatever they have. Because desire, when it goes unchecked, it becomes the root of all our sufferings. Then comes chapter 45, and it goes back to that idea of imperfection and how there is perfection in imperfection. Let me read it for you. Great perfection seems flawed. Great fullness seems empty. Great straightness seems crooked. Great skill seems clumsy. Great eloquence seems stammering. Movement conquers cold. Stillness conquers heat. Purity and stillness are the world's standards. So once again, those lines, movement conquers cold and stillness conquers heat. And what he means here is that perfection, when viewed through the eyes of the world, it will often look imperfect. The deepest truths and the most balanced lives, they seem very plain and kind of understated. But we still have to have those standards, the highest quality of standards, the highest quality of life. That is what we should aim for. And its quality is that When you have a great life, it often hides itself like a vessel that appears simple but it holds infinite space. Wisdom, in a similar way, lives quietly. It avoids any kind of flashy displays. So that was chapter 45. Now let's talk about 46, which talks about desire, and it sees desire as some kind of disease. It goes, when the world follows the Tao, horses are used to till the fields. When the world does not follow the Tao, war horses are bred in the countryside. There is no greater crime than desire, no great disaster than discontent, no greater misfortune than greed. Whoever knows contentment will always be content. So he describes two worlds here. One is in harmony, that is where horses plow through fields in peace, and the other world is in disorder, where the same horses become instruments of war. So the root of disorder lies not on outside, not on the weapons, not on horses, but it is inside, in human heart's endless hunger for more. So this desire is a disease. And desire, not in terms of emotions, I would say, but in terms of excess, the inability to have contentment in you. When you lose contentment, peace gives way to competition, and competition gives ways to conflicts. And society really mirrors the inner unrest that is going on within the psyches of the humans. That's why we need to work on contentment, not always chasing our desires. That's the lesson here. And when we work on ourselves and on our inner world, the outer world also manifests in a beautiful way. And the chapter 47, the next one, it talks more about the inner world. Let me read it here. Without going outside, you may know the whole world. Without looking through the window, you may see the way of heaven. The farther you go, the less you know. Therefore, the sage knows without traveling, sees without looking, and accomplishes without striving. So this chapter kind of reverses the idea of exploration. What Lao Tzu is saying here is that real understanding, it does not come from chasing experiences, but from deeply looking within yourself. And that's the true knowledge. True knowledge depends on how carefully, with how much focus we look within. If we are constantly seeking knowledge from outside, that is going to be really shallow. The wise, he says, they do not travel too far. They turn inwards. And that's where the entire universe, the entire world, you can find all the human emotions, joy, pain, love, all kind of mysteries. They are right there. They exist within you. Understand them right there, instead of traveling here and there and chasing experiences. And then the chapter 48 talks about the wisdom of unlearning, how you can unlearn, how that's important. Let me read it for you. It goes, in the pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. In the pursuit of the Tao, every day something is dropped. Less and less is done until non-action is achieved. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. It's beautiful, it's very interesting that in Taoism, we are dropping rather than accumulating. And what we are left with then is the pure version. And he contrasts intellectual accumulation with spiritual release. According to him, knowledge fills us and wisdom empties us, and we should work on the latter. And it makes sense if you think spiritually, because to pursue any spirituality, whether it's you name it Tao, you name it God, religion, whatever, and to pursue that path is to shed the unnecessary things, opinions, control, urgency, ego. You have to get rid of them. The fewer the desires, the expectations, the more naturally life will arrange itself. So that's the lesson here in chapter 48. Now let me read chapter 49. It says, "The sage has no fixed heart. He takes the heart of the people as his own. To the good, he is good. To the not good, he is also good. For virtue is goodness. The sage lives in the world quietly, blending his heart with all things." So here is describing the qualities of a sage. The sage is open, receptive, and without any biases or prejudice. His heart is like water. In fact, water was the thing that came to my mind when I was reading these lines. It's like water, reflecting everything, just flowing without any prejudice, without clinging on to anything. It just flows on and on and on. This is compassion in its purest form. It's not selective. It does not come from morality. It's not moralistic. It's universal. To have no fixed heart here means to have heart in all situations. It means to remain fluid, free of judgment, free of fear, free of biases, and it is rooted in understanding. It's not rooted in reaction. It is not rooted in some kind of divine commandment. It is in understanding your own nature. And now let's move on to the final chapter for today's episode, chapter 50, which talks about living in harmony with the death itself. Let me read it for you. It goes, "Those who are skilled in living travel through the world without fear of rhinoceros or tiger. They enter battle without armor or sword. The rhinoceros finds no place to thrust its horn. The tiger finds no place to claw. The weapon finds no place to pierce. Why? Because they have no place for death to enter." This is one of the most powerful sections of the book, and I think it gives you a lot of courage and gives a poetic image of weapons and animals and the wilderness. This image speaks of the person who lives in such a deep, such a clear harmony with the Tao that they move beyond fear, even the fear of death. They overcome it. And that's the ultimate aim. You overcome these challenges when you pursue the path of Tao. Of course, from the image that we get from these lines, it feels like that we're talking about physical invulnerability, but it's not just that. It is talking about the inner freedom. What it really means here is that when one lives their life in harmony, in accordance with the Tao, with the natural flow and rhythm of the universe, when one stops clinging to life or resisting death, fear disappears, and life it just flows so naturally, beautifully. And this chapter, I feel, offers such a nice comfort to those anxious about mortality or even change. Peace, it does not come from denying death, but from realizing that life and death are part of one continuous movement. And the Tao goes on, the flow goes on. That's what you need to understand, and you will feel much more comfortable. So, these were the lessons from the chapter number 41 to 50. That's all for today. In the next episode, I'll be discussing chapter number 51 to 60, where we'll find more Taoist wisdom there. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll catch you the next time. Thank you.